episode number 6. You are listening to the More Than a Lawyer podcast with your host, Janine Esbrand. I'm here to help lawyers and mums to thrive in their careers and motherhood. I share tips, strategies and inspirational conversation with awesome women to help you reduce the struggle in your juggle. Hello and welcome to the show. I am so happy to share my conversation with an awesome lady with you today. I speak to Kelsey Van Kirk from thehomelovingwife.com. She shares with us how she manages being a mother to 4 awesome little ladies whilst building and growing a thriving business. So if you have considered becoming a stay-at-home mom or taking a break from your legal career or switching career tracks completely, then this episode is really going to give you some insight into what life could look like for you. We talk about a range of topics from systems for managing the laundry to the importance of understanding your core values. So I am sure that you are going to be just as inspired as I was when I spoke to Kelsey. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation. So I just want to take the opportunity to welcome my guest, Kelsey Van Kirk, onto today's podcast. I am going to ask you, Kelsey, to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a bit about you and, yourself, your family, your business. Tell us.
Goodness, where to start? So much pressure.
Sorry.
As Janine said, I'm Kelsey Van Kirk. I am a lifestyle and clarity coach for wives and moms, and I am the founder of the Home Loving Wife community, which is a lifestyle blog dedicated to wives and moms and really helping them thrive in their roles as wives, moms, and homemakers. I got married very young at age 19 and popped kids out right away. So I have 4 young daughters who are all under the age of 6. And life is crazy for us, isn't it? It's fun. I love it, but it is crazy. And things have gotten even crazier as I launched my business 9 months ago now. And it's been a really crazy, wild ride. I love it so much. And being able to really do the things I'm passionate about in my role as a wife and a mom, but also kind of step into this new venture and this new passion that I didn't really know existed before, of really encouraging, inspiring, and empowering other wives and moms to do the same thing. So we live in North Carolina, so across the pond from Miss Janine.
Yes.
We love it, and I'm super excited to be here chatting with you today.
Oh, thank you for joining us. So just from your introduction, there is so much that you can share with us. So my audience are women who are very ambitious, who are probably going through some kind of life transition. So they might be going into motherhood for the first time, or starting a new career, building their career, or even starting their own business. So it would be really interesting to hear from you how you have found tackling the challenge, of transitioning from being just a full-time mom to then launching your business. Let's talk about that first of all.
Yeah, so that has been a huge transition. My husband has been amazing. He's been the full-time breadwinner for our family since I was pregnant with my first. So obviously I said I got married early, but I was working full-time until I got pregnant, and then we knew that we wanted to have me stay home and raise the kids, and eventually homeschool them as well. So that's kind of intrinsic to our family value system. But I have a ton of passions and a ton of things that I love, and we were kind of to a point where we would love to bring my husband home to go to work from home if possible, but the stars weren't aligning to kind of get us there yet. And so I just got into massive brainstorm mode. Like, what can I do to leverage my skills and my giftings and my passions to be able to create something and work from home in this era? I feel like where it's ripe for that, for women to have those abilities and take advantage of those abilities. And so I knew that I loved writing. I knew that that was kind of a no-brainer way for me to get into it, was with blogging. And so I just started. I came up with this concept, and I started writing a bunch of pieces, put it all together, started really digging into learning the world of digital marketing, online business, no experience in that before. And I'm not going to lie, I got sucked in and totally addicted. Who knew? Like, I'm really good at time management, at figuring out how to run my household well, all of those things. So those are the things that I went into this business venture intending to share with women.
Yeah.
And then turns out I'm just this total junkie about all of the business sides of things. And that was a big, unexpected kind of twist.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten kind of further down the rabbit hole, actually probably one of the biggest challenges for me has really been dealing with the fact that I didn't know that I can be quite a workaholic. So, but it used to work out well for me because my project-orientedness served me well when it came to mothering and running my household and things. You know, it just meant that I was always on top of my laundry. It meant that I was always really good at my meal planning. But then you throw in this new business, and I loved it. I got totally just sucked into. I wanted to do it every waking hour of each day, and being torn between doing that and still fulfilling my roles as a wife and a mom and a homemaker well, that ironically turned out to be the biggest challenge, and it's still one that I'm walking through every day.
Yeah.
So my experience thus far has been that connecting with community has been really, really key. Specifically, a community of women who get it.
Yeah.
That's just been really helpful because I think a lot of times we women don't give ourselves enough credit. Like, we know a lot of the times what is off or what needs adjustment or what we could be doing better or differently. But I think sometimes we just need other women to come in and almost give ourselves permission to say, you're right, just move forward and do it, you know, and it's okay. You're not ever going to be perfect, and you're doing an amazing job.
I can totally relate to that because in building my business at the moment and having to, you know, run my family, and I'm also a lawyer, and so I work part-time as a lawyer. I'm home with my son a couple of days a week, and then I'm also growing my business. So having community, you know, where there's other women who are also building their business and that don't think I'm crazy for trying to fit in so much and do what I'm doing is just, it's so good. It's so keeping me sane right now. So connecting with people like yourself and other women that I've met has just been absolutely awesome. So I would so encourage anyone who's listening that, you know, if you haven't got a community already, to build one, because having that sisterhood and that support is just invaluable regardless of whatever stage you're going through in life. So that's really important. One thing I picked up on that you said was you're really good at managing your home and keeping on top of laundry. Okay, so you need to share some tips with us, because myself and a whole load of other women are struggling with keeping on top of things. So can you just give us maybe one or two of your kind of tips or systems that you use to do that, especially because you have 4 kids, and we're going to come back to that because we're going to talk about we have to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, it's nuts. What I have found to be really, really helpful is I do 1 load of laundry every day. So I literally wake up, I just treat it like, you know, you get up, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, you take a shower, whatever your kind of daily rhythms are. I include going downstairs, unloading the dishwasher, throwing a load of laundry in the washing machine, and then I dry it before lunchtime, so then I can fold it and put it away either during nap time or bedtime. So instead of having 6 people's laundry just piling up it for 1 laundry day a week, I don't even think all of our hampers could fill a week's worth of our laundry in one. So I have to stay on top of it, otherwise I go mad. And when I had fewer kids, I used to do it more on a weekly basis, and it was more manageable. And I actually used to fold my laundry while sitting in front of TV watching like The Bachelor every week or something. But I find that when I sit down to have special time like that, I don't want to be folding laundry. Like, I just want to park my butt on the couch with a glass of wine and totally check out into my time. So by breaking it up into kind of those bite-sized pieces every day rather than letting it pile up, that's really helpful. And yeah, it's just really helpful because there's so much laundry with all 4 of the kids and all the kids stuff. And you mentioned the socks earlier when we were talking. There's just a never-ending supply and disarray of children's socks and underwear everywhere.
Just mismatched socks just drive me so crazy, but it just happens. I just can't. And I only have one, so I don't know. One child to deal with and his clothes.
1 and 4. It's just like it's just compounded. It's not really any different. It's just a little bit more, and you don't really have a choice. I mean, so whether you have 1 kid or 10, I mean, there's different things that go along with it, different challenges you face, and different things that you have to come up with in order to make things flow. So I don't think one is necessarily harder than the other. It's just different.
Okay, just different. So I guess what you're saying and what I picked up on then is about being intentional about what you're trying to achieve. So if it is that you're trying to stay on top of your laundry, get a system in place and make it so that it's something that you do every day or however often you're going to do it. But instead of just being like, oh, I just can't keep on top of this, but actually saying, okay, right, how am I going to do this? Let me figure out what's going to work for me.
Exactly.
And then put that in place.
Since you're a B School alum, I know you should probably know this. I love Marie Forleo, and I love that one of her favorite kind of quotes or phrases is everything is figure outable.
Yes.
Couldn't agree with that more.
Yes.
And if you can't figure it out, somebody else can. So find somebody who's got to figure it out and you to that. So I am big into systems. It is the only way that I stay sane in my household and how I survive as we are wading through these trenches of learning everything. So some things, admittedly, I am better at being systematized with, and other things I still haven't learned. But there's always room for growth and improvement.
Definitely. And like you said, if you have that mantra in the back of your mind that everything is figure outable, it means that it relieves some pressure, because you're like, okay, it's not working right now, but there is a way to figure this out, and if I need to reach out, then I will, and find the answer somewhere. And also, you don't need to find the answer today. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I can't do this, I'm a terrible mother, I can't keep hold of my household, I can't keep...
You probably don't try to problem solve when you're stuck in that. Just go get a glass of wine and then you can solve the problem tomorrow.
Exactly, come back to it. Let's park it, let's come back. It's not, it's not going away, so you can always come back to it and deal with it at another time.
Absolutely.
So tell me now about your family life. I'm just really intrigued. I have a friend who also has 4 children. She has 3 boys and a girl. And they're just lovely. They're all close together too. And just seeing how they interact. They're a little older than yours. I think the oldest is 11 and the youngest is 6. But she, at one point, she had all 4 of them under 5 years old. So it's kind of a similar setup to you. But it's so nice to see how they interact and how close they are as a family. So I'd like to hear more about your family dynamic and how you kind of manage being a mum to 4, and how your husband feels too about being surrounded by so many sassy little ladies.
Oh, I know it. Bless his heart. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I think that, so my husband and I are both the oldest of 4, which is kind of unique. My oldest daughter, Juliana, she's 6. It was either today or yesterday. She made a comment about how, guys, we're all the same. Daddy, you were from a family and there was 4 kids, and Mommy's from a family and there was 4 kids, and we're a family with 4 kids. It was so cute to see her make this mental connection. She's so smart. But it's a lot of fun. It's crazy. We love having little girls. We got asked all variety of questions, have gotten asked all those questions over the last 5 years. The kind of the classic, could be offensive, but also we just laugh and roll through it kind of questions like, do you guys know how that happens? No, we don't. Can you explain it to me? Or that, are you guys going to keep trying for a boy? And we're kind of like, well, there's not really anything we can do differently at this point. So there's all kinds of silly questions. It's funny the things that people ask, I think, just to have something to say, because they don't know what else to say. We do often feel a little bit like kind of a circus sideshow anytime we go anywhere. One of my blogging friends, Natalie Lefnesky, I think I said that right. She blogs at Home with Natalie. She has these bags that she created and carries in her shop that I love. They say, yes, they're all mine. It's like a little canvas tote bag. And so she sent me one, and I totally love it. Whenever I saw it, I was like, that is perfect. My kids have started picking up on the fact that anytime we go out, typically when it's just me with my 4 girls, we always get asked the same questions, like, are they all yours? Are they all girls? Things like that. And every time Juliana's like, Mom, why do people always ask you the same questions? Like, well, don't know what to tell you. But It's a lot of fun. They all get along really well. We, of course, have their sister spats, but it's really, really just cool to see how their bonds are forming already at such a young age. So the oldest is 6. My second one turns 5 next week. I've got a 2.5-year-old, and then my youngest just turned, I think, 17 months. Mm-hmm. She was born January last year. So and we are officially done. There's no more coming, no possibility of any more, and saved from an act of God. But it's just been a really, really cool season that's stretched my husband and I a lot, but in really good ways. And one of my favorite things too that I've read, I don't know where, somewhere along the way, was a question to a mom who had more kids than I do, like a lot of kids, maybe 5 or 6 kids. Basically a how do you do it question, like how in the world do you manage having all of those kids close together, all of that. And she's like, you know what, honestly, at the end of the day, it's totally not me, but with every child that I have, my capacity to mother is increased, which I love. I kind of have kept that at the back because often, truly, I get questions all the time. Like, I just don't think I could do it. I could never do what you're doing. And I'm like, well, I didn't even like kids when I was younger. I didn't have these dreams of being married and having a bunch of kids and all of this. And it wasn't until I was 15, 16 years old and kind of just had a big sort of values shift and change in my life and met my husband and could see it, could picture it, that I was like, oh, maybe I would like that. And, here we are several years later, and I love it. It's very refining.
Yes, that's such a good word to use. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, motherhood, it's refining. Yeah, I need to write that down.
It's a nice word. Cutting away the rough edges a bit and sanding them down. And my husband's amazing. I think God just knew that he would be an amazing dad to girls. He likes to say that he just understands women really well. The joke that he always prayed to be surrounded by beautiful women when he was a young guy. So,
aww, that's so sweet.
For him. So it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it very much.
Oh, it sounds awesome. So, in terms of other, where your inspiration comes from and where you kind of draw some of your strength, because it sounds like you have that background of having a big family, you come from one, but being at the forefront of your family and having to manage your home and stuff, I'm sure there's days where you're just like, I don't even know how I'm going to get through this day. So in those difficult times, where do you turn? Like, what do you go to? Who do you go to? What inspires you?
Well, I'm definitely a big believer in, well, God, for starters. I 100% believe that he doesn't give us more than he can handle. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, I think that with most things, especially most challenging and worthwhile opportunities that we're presented with, I think that a lot of times we don't have the capacity in those moments, but I think that he gives us that capacity and grows that in us. But also too, like I was kind of mentioning earlier, the community aspect has really, really grown to be so much more valuable just even in the last year, especially since starting my business, which is funny because I'm a ginormous, huge, fat introvert, which most people don't believe me.
Really? I wouldn't say that. You don't have. I wouldn't say that. Just from like our interaction so far, I wouldn't think. She's an introvert.
Nobody ever believes me unless they really know me well. Nobody ever believes me because I'm relatively bubbly and whatever. But yeah, I was an intensely private young person. Like, my mom is not that way, and so we had this very tough relationship at times because she would just want to pry things out of me, and I was so private. Didn't want to share and divulge and connect in that way. I also grew up moving a ton. I think I tallied over the course of my life, I've moved like 16 times. I'm only 26 years old. So I think that definitely plays into just the fact that it shapes how you view things and how you, how connected you allow yourself to be. And so I think I just, for years and years and years of my life, sort of, preferred to be this island unto myself. It was a little simpler that way. But now as a wife, as a mom, and just really, really deep in the trenches of life and all of the hats that I'm wearing and things that I'm juggling, it's just kind of been actually a huge unexpected surprise and blessing to to have been connected with the amazing women who are, some of them are very similar to me, some of them are vastly different from me, but I think there's just this underlying intrinsic connection that women have when they're wives, when they're moms, when they're responsible for running their households and doing anything beyond that. And I love how this could just be me, you know, with my blinders on, ignoring where this doesn't exist. But thus far in my experience, I've just been really amazed and blown away by the culture of supportive women that that does exist kind of in the virtual world. And right now, that's just really helpful for me, because in this season of life, as an introverted mom, I'm super tapped out all the time with tons of tiny children running around me, pulling on me, hugging on me, talking at me incessantly.
Yeah.
Physically, I'm really used up, and mentally I'm really used up by the end of the day. So I'm not one of those moms that loves to go out for a play date to rejuvenate myself. Like I do that for my kids, but I know some moms that love that, and that's like their sanity. They get together with their girlfriends at the playground and watch their kids play, and that is that's hard for me, but which is why I'm so thankful for being connected with the kind of online community that I am, because it's a way for me to pour into other women's lives and subsequently be poured into, but in a way that feels good and not too much and safe. And so I just really think that being in touch with community and women who are pouring into you and encouraging you and inspiring you, not just, I think that there's a lot of value in finding that balance too, between encouraging each other to be better and to grow, while also basically giving that grace and encouraging women, hey, even though you're not there yet, you're here, and that's amazing. You're doing amazing. Yes, there's all of this left to come for you, and yes, I believe that you have the potential to grow into these amazing things in store for you, but we really, really need to kind of take on and bear the weight a little bit of each other's burdens, I think, because I'm just a big believer in the grace over guilt, and progress over perfection, just all of those things, because I think that's where the magic kind of sweet stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that you mentioned you're not the type who likes to go to the playground and that's not your thing, but there are some women that is their thing, and you've recognized that that's the type of person that you are, and you're cool with that, and then you found what works for you. And I think it's important for all of us to not feel bad about your personality and the way that you are. So if you're not the type to rock up to a play group and be like, hey, my name's so-and-so, and what's your baby's name, and just be able to just have that conversation, that's cool. But you still need to, connect with people, and there's other ways to do it. So it's just knowing that you're in this new phase. Becoming a mum is like amazing, and you kind of have to find yourself again in that. So before I became a mum, I knew who I was. I'm a lawyer, I'm a wife, and I do this, and this is how I do things. And then I had my baby, and I just learned I'm a different person now, and so I had to relearn who I am again, and that's cool. It's beautiful. It's a journey. So it's just good to recognize that it's a journey, and you don't get there overnight. You have to give yourself time to grow, and like you said, the grace to grow.
Absolutely. Have there been any things that you basically recognized were different about yourself after you became a mom? Like even just practical things? I know for me, one of the things, and this is typically, I guess, more so when I'm pregnant, not so much after I've had babies, but I was so sensitive when I was pregnant. Like I could not, this news stories on the side of Facebook that would pop up, or like even I couldn't watch certain kinds of movies once I was pregnant, and even once I had become a mom, because you change. Like I used to love watching scary movies. I would go to the movie theater by myself to watch scary movies when I was a teenager. Because I'm some sick masochist. I don't know why I thought that was cool, but I did. And we're not scary movie people anymore now that I'm a mom.
I think for me, I've always been, it's weird because in terms of interaction with other people, I wouldn't ever really cry that easily. But if I watched a soppy film, I'd find it really easy to cry, or like to cry, because sometimes you just want to let it out or release some tension. But since becoming a mum, other things touch me more. So the fact that I have a child means that anyone else who has a child, I can empathize with them on a different level. So if there is anything in the news affecting children, or just anything to do with children, I put myself in that mother's shoes now, and I'm just like, if that was me, I just don't even know what would I do. And so the emotion comes on a whole nother level now, because I just think, if that was my baby, how would I feel?
Yeah. And even things like, I found that I'm way more self-preservative. Like, I used to be a big daredevil and totally would do things, hop on the back of a motorcycle or go bungee jumping or all these things. And they're still desires that I have, but they're totally tabled right now, or shelved right now, because I look at everything like, well, if I could die doing that, I can't do that, because my kids can't survive if I don't survive.
Yeah.
Just your whole mindset is totally transformed as a mom. It's
definitely
funny.
And the other thing that just came to my mind is the fact that I used to be much more of a people pleaser. So if someone asked me to go somewhere or do something, even if I didn't really feel like doing it, I would think, I don't want to let them down. I should really go. But since having my son, I'm just like, no, like, the whole first, I guess, like 6 months of his life, that I was just off the radar. No social events. Like, people will ask me, are you coming? I'm like, nah, I'm home with my baby. Like, I need to be here with him right now. I need this time. And so I'm just going to do that. And I didn't feel guilty about
good
putting that, putting those boundaries around my time. Whereas before, I would have felt like I needed to. So yeah,
that's really good. I don't think that because have always been a huge people pleaser, and it's been a struggle. And I don't think I got to that point that you're describing until probably actually in the last year or two. So I had to have a couple of kids. I struggled with feeling like I needed to do this for my family, and yet still kind of grappling with that people pleasing thing. And really, in the last year, I've gotten really good about kind of being to that same place you said of having those boundaries and just being like, no, you can communicate something with respect and clarity and kindness, but sticking to your boundaries, it's a nice thing. I think it's a mama bear trait that we develop a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I want to ask you now is, what tips would you give to a woman in transition? So if someone's here listening and she's going through a tough time, going through any kind of change, what would you say to her? What kind of advice would you give for her dealing with those challenges that she's facing?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, especially one that I can definitely relate to, because I feel like the last 8 years of my life have been one endless cycle of transitions, which, if you think about any life, is kind of like that. But I mean, I was living at home. I graduated high school, was planning to go to school, decided not to go to school, was living at home, working full time.
When you say go to school, you mean like go to college or university?
Sorry, college.
Just clarifying for the people over here.
I did graduate high school. Thank you. Yeah. So graduated high school, was going to go to college, chose not to, and was working full time at a bank, and then moved out of my parents' home, eloped with my husband then.
Who came with you? When you say eloped, I just have to clarify. Did you bring your sisters or your?
We went to the courthouse on a Tuesday after my first day of work at the bank, and just a couple who were our best friends at the time, who had just gotten married 6 months before, they were our witnesses. So it was just me and my husband and two of our friends, and we signed paperwork, and we got married by a judge who said the word bullshit in our ceremony. So bad.
And then you told your parents after?
No, well, that's a whole nother story for a whole different day.
Okay, fine.
There was a bit of family drama at the time, and now it is totally all resolved, but it's quite a fun story. I'll have to write a memoir about it, I think.
Okay, good.
So we eloped, and then 5 months later I got pregnant, and my husband had been unemployed for a bit, and he couldn't find work. This was during kind of the economic downturn in North Carolina. So we moved from North Carolina to Missouri so he could work with his dad. And then we moved to Arkansas when he got a job there, like 8 weeks before my first daughter came. Stayed there for 2.5 years, had another daughter, then decided to move back to North Carolina. And we've been here ever since. started a blog, started a business. It's just been kind of one never-ending stream of transitions in our life, a lot in the last 7 years. So all of that said, I think my biggest tips would, one, be to, if you haven't already, be really intentional about setting some time to kind of dive into what you really feel like your kind of core values are. What is it that you want most out of your life? And this is actually something that I work with a lot of my clients in, because I believe so strongly in the importance of knowing what your values are. And you and I actually talked a bit about this before we got chatting. I just think that if it's so important to know what's most important to you and what kind of your end goal is, when you are looking back over the course of your life, the legacy that you are leaving, essentially, knowing the things that are most important to you and what drives you and what, the measure by which you'll feel like you did what you wanted to with your life or not. Mm-hmm. I think that when we know and we understand those values, it makes decision-making a lot easier, especially during the times of transition when things inherently can kind of feel unsure or just kind of things might feel off or you might feel restless just because it makes sense. You're in a time of transition. So taking time, it doesn't have to be long, but just taking time to kind of ask yourself, just check in with yourself and remind yourself why, if you've recently made decisions to move forward with something, have something even written down, like what your why is, what you're working toward, what kind of lifestyle is it that you're building. And if you're not where you're wanting to be, or if you're in a time of transition that has you feeling like, is this where I should be? Then it's all the more important, I think, because it kind of forces you to stop, take a pause right where you are and assess everything. Like, is this really, after I add up A, B, C, and D, is this really the best spot for me to be in? And if not, how can I tweak it? How can I utilize Marie Forleo's, everything is figure outable? How can I problem solve to make this better? Because one of the biggest life lessons that I have learned is that we have to remember to embrace the starring role character of our own lives. A lot of times I think that we end up kind of taking on the supporting character role in our lives, and we kind of just go with the flow of things, or based on, what our cultural norms are, or the status quo is, or what other people say or what other people are doing, and things just go a lot better when you know who you are, what you're supposed to be doing with your life, based on your values, not somebody else's.
Yeah,
and you just take ownership of that and move forward. So, and then I know I'm being really harpy on this one particular thing, but the community is key, because when you're going through times of transition, doing it on your own is possible. It just sucks. It's not anywhere near as fun. And I think that we will have those days inevitably where we feel like crappy moms or crappy wives or crappy people in general. And when we have those people that we trust and that we love and we know will either say, chin up, put your big girl panties on, and get to doing what you do instead of crying, or on the flip side, say, you're doing amazing. Don't believe any of those lies that are ping-ponging around in your brain right now, because just all you need to do is take one step forward and then another step, and just take it one step at a time. That's really, really valuable. Goodness, what else? I don't know. I like wine sometimes too in those times. It's always helpful.
Do you know what? Listening to you talk then is just so crazy, because all of what you said is pretty much what I say to people when I'm working with people. Say that again?
Well, we're kindred spirits.
Yeah, totally. Like the whole starting with the end in mind. You probably read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and in that he talks about starting with the end in mind. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Starts with figuring out where you wanna get to, and it seems quite simple and obvious, but it's really not, because most people don't. Like you said, they just coast through and then arrive at a place and they're just like, how did I get here? Or I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve, but actually didn't take the time to stop and just state, this is what it is. This is what I want to achieve. And And so it's really important, I think, especially when you're maybe just starting out in something, so you don't feel that confident. So when you're just starting out in your career and you feel like you need to just follow the status quo because that is what it is. So for me, when I started working as a lawyer, it was like, okay, I've got here, this is what everyone else does, so this is what I have to do. But actually realizing that it's your life and you are unique and there's no other person that is you. So you have to figure out, like, how do I want to do this? How do I want to, you hold the pen on your life. So figure out how you use it.
I mean, it's a really unsettling prospect. Maybe not for, I'm sure there are those unique people who just love that and they go in guns blazing, and more power to them. I'm not like that. I'm very analytical. I don't like taking risks. I want to know something is going to be a sure thing and have researched the heck out of it before I jump in. And one of the biggest entrepreneurial lessons I have learned since starting my venture is the concept of it's a quote that I read. I don't know who said it, but an entrepreneur is somebody who jumps off a cliff and builds an airplane on the way down.
Oh, wow.
Which was incredibly impactful for me because that's the exact opposite of how I like to live my life.
You would have the plane built already, tested out, make sure it works before you're even getting on it.
And I think that that method of operation makes a lot of sense and is useful sometimes, but definitely in my experience, it's funny how much overlap there can be in the lessons that you learn as an entrepreneur or working person that mirror life or that are applicable in life itself too. And it's funny how much I've grown in the area of learning to not be afraid of making the tweaks and adjustments needed as I go. Because that was one of the biggest things. Like I started out thinking, okay, I'm going to come up with an idea and then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z research in order to figure out how to bring this idea to fruition. And then I'm going to roll with it and it's going to result in this. And that is just this very kind of linear equation formula that I made up in my own mind. And it's not turned out to be like that. But I think that had I stayed in that thinking pattern, I would not be where I even am right now. Had I not been willing to put the brakes on, kind of reflect and assess, okay, what have I learned thus far? How did this work? Is this the direction I want to keep going in? Or do I want to make just this kind of pivot and move in this direction and bring everything that I've learned with me and funnel it into this new direction? And I can't tell you how many times I've done that just in the last 9 months. It's kind of insane, but I don't think that I would have had the level of success that I've even had thus far had I not been willing to do that. And that was very counter what I was comfortable with or what I was used to at that point. So yeah, I love that. Thinking of the end, what did you say? Starting with the end in mind.
Starting with the end in mind,
But not being afraid of changing what that end looks like.
So not being so attached to the outcome that you don't allow yourself to adjust as you grow, because you might set a goal when you're young, like when you're 8 years old, you might say, when I grow up I want to be this, and then just work towards it. But in that time you've shifted and you've changed as a person, so you can't be so attached to like, I have to do that one thing, because actually it might not still work for you. So it's really important, like you said earlier, to keep checking back in with yourself, and is this still what it is that I want to achieve, and is this still right for me and the others in my life? Because you have a family, you have a husband, so it's not just you operating in a vacuum. So it's really important. But yeah, it's so good to talk to you.
You too. I know, I love it. So fun.
Okay, so tell us a bit about where we can connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much an open book and probably put way more of myself and my family out there than anybody wants to know about or see. But so I, similar to you, also have a private Facebook community called the Home Loving Wife Sisterhood, and it's not super fancy or anything. We keep it real in there. It's just a group of wives and moms really looking to live intentionally and thrive in our roles as wives and moms and homemakers. So we have a lot of fun in there. We keep it real. We share tips and resources. We encourage each other. Right now, we're actually going through a month-long fitness challenge together, just mostly because I needed accountability to stay on top of it. And apparently, there's a lot of women that did. So we do fun things like that. So that's the Home Loving Wife Sisterhood. There's information on my website, which is www.thehomelovingwife.com. And I will shoot you the link, Janine, so that you can post that in the show notes. And anything that you want to know about me or connect with me, you can find on my website. I, this year, just started my new signature program called Project Reset, which I am loving. I'm in my first round of coaching clients, working with them right now. And a lot of what we talked about today actually touches on kind of some cornerstones of that program. It's basically a 6-week intensive program where I coach women through kind of a process of really uncovering who they are, what they were created to do, and how to go about creating a life. Creating the life that you dream of as a wife and a mom. So a lot of practically applicable strategies and solutions there that I love. So you can learn more about that at thehomelovingwife.com/Project Reset. And I would love to connect with you more in the Facebook group or on Instagram. The Home Loving Wife is my handle. And yeah, that's me.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been awesome connecting with you and learning about you.
You too. Well, have loved being here chatting with you today.
It's been awesome.
And thank you so much for having me.
Nice to have you, and we'll speak to you again soon, hopefully. Take care.
Sounds fantastic. Bye.
It was so great catching up with Kelsey. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. There was many things that we talked about that I thought were great, but I really love the idea of assuming the starring role in our lives. A lot of us can be really passive in our personal lives and in our careers, and I just really want to encourage you to be more proactive in your lawyer mum life so that you can live a life that you truly enjoy, that you can have a career that you love, and that you can raise your babies in a way that makes you. I would love to know what you found most useful from today's show. So head over to lightbotscoaching.com/community and join the More Than a Lawyer community. Connect with me there and let me know what you found useful. You'll also be able to connect with other listeners to this podcast, and it's going to be an awesome place for you to share, grow, and meet like-minded people. Also, if you want to check out any of the links from today's show, you can grab those at lightbotscoaching.com/podcast. So head over there. And that brings me to the end of the show, ladies. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I really look forward to speaking to you in the next episode. The More Than a Lawyer podcast features music from Ben Sound.